Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 165, I was very privileged to have Faris Aranki on the podcast. How can I say? He is a strategist and emotional intelligence consultant. We talked about many things. We talked about how he got started, where his journey started as a teacher of all things, and basically how he was told he didn't have enough experience in the real world to get a job, and what he had to do to take him to his journey of consultancy. We also talked about how, he's just been in business for the last 18 months. And when he started his business 6 months before, the big pandemic hit, and what's that been like? I've got to say, a very nice chap, a great time to have conversation with. And yes, I look forward to having conversations with him again in the future. Hopefully face to face when we can do that properly, not over the old Zoom. But nevertheless, please sit back, enjoy the show, and have a great time. Please don't forget, subscribe. It really does help. And have a wonderful day. Enjoy the show. And yes, be awesome. Peace. Haha. Oh, yeah. Oh. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 165, I have, yes, he's very enthusiastic. I have Faris Aranki. He is a strategic and emotional intelligence. Would you say consultant, officer? How would you describe yourself?
Joker, clown, court jester, and consultant is how I tend to describe myself. But there are many describe it.
Yeah, you know what? I have met many a consultant in my time, and yes, you are a proud member of that jester clan. What goes around the country? Now, I have to ask you, sir, have had, how can I say, an interesting journey getting here as a consultant. How does someone go from being a school teacher involved in the police force, become a consultant?
I think we all have exciting journeys, but how does somebody do it? By a bit of blind luck, by a bit of not taking no for an answer, is probably the summary. But more specifically, I've always looked at my career as an opportunity to learn and try lots of different. And I started off as a school teacher, as you said. I tried that. I really enjoyed it. I took such a great bunch of skills from it. But they're equally important. I realized it wasn't going to be my vocation. So rather than just carry on and kind of do a disservice to myself and the kids I was teaching, I just to move on and take the skills and try them in another arena, so to speak. And it just so happens I've done that several times. Each time refining and really learning what I do like as much as what I don't like. And that's taken me to the point of setting up my own company to really focus on stuff that I'm really passionate about, know I'm good at, and just happy doing day in, day out.
So would you say you've been, like, how can I put it, a seeker of discomfort to basically find your place in the world?
I guess that's one way to look at it. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed everything I've done. You know, I'm from the school of thought of there's no bad experience, right? Yeah, even when it feels terrible, you're at your lowest. When you look back at it, you will learn so much from it. You'll take so much from it. If nothing else, you just have a great story from it. And I've basically got 20 years of great stories. That's not to say that I've had 20 years of failures, but it's life is there to be experienced and made the most of, really. I don't think I've stopped right now, right? I suspect I've got just as long to go in my career, probably longer, if you look at how we're doing as human beings. You and I may be working into our 80s, our 90s, so nothing would scare me more than to hate every day from now until that time, going to work and going, oh my God, when's this treadmill going to end?
Well, put it this way, yes, working toward the 80s and 90s. Well, you know what? Hopefully not. Hopefully they won't make those many changes. But you never know. It's like, hey, you remember that?
You might want to be doing it gladly.
Hey, you never know, but like this is the thing. I can just see the government at the time, like, going, hey, you remember that time when we put everyone on furlough? Yeah, you guys have got to work and pay that back now. Come on now, keep on going. Don't stop.
I mean, there's always a kick somewhere. I distinctly remember years ago when my dad turned around to me and my siblings and said, "Hey, you remember that pocket money I used to give you as a kid?" We were like, "Yeah, yeah." He said, "Now it's my turn to collect the pocket money. I just want £1,000 a month." And I said, "Hang on a minute, Dad. You used to go and you give us 50p." And he said, "Yeah, I told you all about that." So there's always a kick somewhere.
Just like, yeah, there's that inflation. Come on, son. I taught you about. So, how did you get your, like, after like traveling around being a police officer? There must be a story or two to tell there. Was you a police officer just working for the force?
I was just working for the police. I wasn't an actual police officer. I was a civilian support in an office, actually. We worked in the crime management center. Sounds really cool. And to be honest with you, I just got into it through as a temp job, and then kind of showed a bit of initiative and kept getting, promoted and handed new things to do. I never actually intended to go into the police, but it's fascinating to actually work in an establishment like the police, particularly if you have no emotional connection to it.
Yeah.
Do you know the old phrase, if you want to eat sausages, don't work in the sausage factory?
Yeah, like I get it, because like it's like McVitie's, the biscuit company. Like they let everyone who starts working there have their fill. Let them eat as much as they want. After 1 week, they can't actually stand the sight of biscuits, chocolates, anything like that. Just done.
Yeah, well, they didn't let me have all the policing that I wanted, but I definitely got to see behind the curtain, so to speak, and it was fascinating. So yeah, but equally around that same time, bizarrely, because I was kind of experimenting what I wanted to do, I also had an internship at the BBC. So I was a runner for the Today program, the news program.
Yeah.
In the morning. So I was balancing. I was doing that in the mornings, and then in the police in the afternoons and evenings, and it was fascinating seeing behind the curtain at the BBC and seeing what happened on a show like that. Again, I lost a lot of the magic that I believed when I just listened to the show to actually being involved in it. So yeah, I learned a lot during that period, which for me was very much a transition, because what I was trying to do was go from teaching into the business world.
Yeah.
But I found it a lot harder. I found a lot of, no companies were interested in ex-teachers because they naively said, look, you have no skills, right? Why do you keep applying for jobs in a business? And I was just shocked. So I had to do this kind of transition stuff to kind of buy me time to make that leap.
Well, that's, you know what, sometimes I wonder about some companies. It's like, yeah, you got no skills. Okay, yeah, keeping a rowdy group of kids between a group of 20 to God knows how many, teach, train them, and make sure they're safe. That's no skills whatsoever. No, you're what I mean, tapping into realms of organization, time management. No, you've got no skills. Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. But so
yeah, it's totally crazy. I mean, I think they've moved on since then, but they probably haven't.
I see. Like with this, is when you were a runner and then basically from working with the police, when did you discover you went, okay, yeah, consultancy is my thing? How did you find that? How did you discover it? Oh.
So I didn't move into consulting, right? So what I did was I knew I wanted to work in business, and business seemed so nebulous. It just seemed like this great thing. And as I said, I struggled to get. I remember looking on the internet, finding jobs that I liked, kind of sending them a letter, never hearing back from them. And the one, the one piece of feedback I got was, you have no skills, you're a teacher. So why do you keep applying for actual line manager roles and stuff like that? So I realized I had to start again, right? I had to start as a graduate, although I was considerably older than other graduates. So I just applied to a bunch of graduate schemes. And I in all honesty, it didn't bother me what the company was. I was just looking for the best opportunity. And I ended up at an energy company. So I took their scheme because it was the most flexible. They were totally happy if I showed the aptitude that I claimed to have, that I could get a permanent job rather than stay on this graduate scheme. So that's why I ended up working for an energy company where I spent about 4 years. And I learned all about the energy world and a bit of business. And it was then I was approached to join consulting.
Okay. And like, this is the thing, like, what did, like, when someone, yeah, you could become a consultant. What did you just look at them and go, what's consultancy? Or did you like, are you crazy? What was?
Yeah, because it was a mixed emotions, because a lot of my friends and a lot of people look at consultants as the sort of, hey, lend me your watch, I'll tell you the time, right? Kind of a little bit like parasites, a bit like lawyers and stuff. But I'm not saying that lawyers are parasites, by the way. My lawyer has told me to say that.
Yes. I think he's nibbling on your leg right now.
He's kept in a cupboard. Then I'd see daylight. So yeah, obviously some people have strong emotions, but it seemed really appealing. The things that sound exciting was the variety, the challenge, the pace, and certainly I worked for an energy company that was slow, and it was a bit. It was repetitive at times. It seemed really appealing, particularly if you like learning and you like being pushed. So definitely the pros outweighed the cons, and I made the leap.
And when you leapt, where did you land exactly? Was it at the same energy company or somewhere else further afield?
So I leapt from this energy company and I joined a big consulting firm called EY.
Yes.
And I had, it was a great experience, right? EY is a massive organization, and it's a great place to learn consulting because they have all their processes set up. They are giant beasts. So, you can pretty much experience a range of things and learn from a range of people. Now, all those pluses can be, there's some downsides to those as well. But when I say you learn, I didn't appreciate at the time that it does take some getting used to working in the world of consulting.
Yeah, because it's like, I would say radically different to going from being a teacher, even working like in the police, or basically working as a runner. But it's just a very, like, in some respects, I still look at it in the world of mystery. But I think to many people, but yes. How was it different for you when you got there?
So it was different. I'll tell you the main differences were, I often describe it as having two husbands or two wives. All right. So when you have one job, you normally have one husband or wife, and that's your boss, right? You just have to impress one set of people. And if you do well in their eyes, then good stuff happens, right? You get promoted, you get good food. When you move into consulting now, you suddenly have this triangle where you've got a client that you're giving, advice to and you're doing work for, but you also have your own boss. And if you're lucky, both of them overlap, right? So if you do good stuff for the client, your boss also takes note and says, fantastic. But sometimes they have completely different objectives, and you do good for one, and then the other one goes, hang on a minute, what are you doing? That's not what we wanted you to do. And I learned that the hard way in my first year in consulting, where I was working on a project, and I was going above and beyond for the client, working extra long hours, doing all these things. And then suddenly my boss pulled me into the room and went, what the, are you doing? Right? And I said, well, I'm just helping the client. I'm just impressing. They said, no. Stop it immediately. Right? Because all that extra work you're doing, that was what we were going to sell them next. Right? Make it an extra 50, 100K, 200K out of, and you've just given it away for free. What are you, a moron? So I was wrapped over the knuckles. I was told off, and I was like, hang on a minute. I never thought if you do good stuff, you get told off. But so you've got this weird dynamic, right? And that can happen. So that was certainly a big culture shock for me, and I learned a lot of lessons. And then the other big lesson, is is because you're all doing loads of different things, right? You imagine EY has 150,000 people, and there's only 6 in that company, or 6 or 7 levels. So nominally, you're at the same level as about 20,000 other people, but you're all doing completely different things, but you all get judged against each other. So how do they know if person A is better than person B when person A has done one activity and person B has done, so that you can't compare them? Well, you suddenly learn that PR and politics and networking is very important. You've got to promote yourself. And again, this is not something I was used to in the world of teaching or the world of police. I didn't expect to have to spend half my time going around going, hey, do you know I've done a really good job? Let me tell you how good job I've done. But that is a key part of any professional services job, is you need to be marketing yourself almost constantly. And I'm not saying 50% of your job, but you need to be out there telling your story a lot. And until you realize that, you're not going to get anywhere in terms of promotion and moving on in your career.
Yeah, wow. Like, this is the thing. When you think, when you hear about that, because one of the things I do know about, like, when it comes to sort of big consultancy companies, they do have their sort of graduate draft, which comes in each and every September. And it's like, yeah, if it's not Ernst & Young, it's KPMG. If it's not KPMG, it's Accenture. And like, you know, you just simply like go, right. But you don't actually, I've never really thought about it. It's like you've got 20,000 people all on the same level, like trying to vie to just get us like a little glimmer of light and attention to like, oh, right, I've done this. But it, like playing that sort of game of politics on a 12-hour day, maybe sometimes longer, ain't easy.
It ain't easy. I'm being a bit disingenuous. They don't score you against all 20,000, but you know, everyone in your team at your level, you are judged against. That can be 100 people, right? So there is an element of learning to play the game, so to speak. And I come from a world where I wish that didn't happen. But if you're in that arena, read the rule book, play to the rules, depending on if you know what success means to you.
Isn't it Einstein who says, like, if whatever game you play, learn the rules first, I think, and then basically go forward from there. Might be wrong about Einstein.
I would tell my family that when we play Monopoly, but you know.
No, like, never play Monopoly. That's just the game of divorce, family strife, and just basically all-out violence. Look, I think forensic teams roll up into family houses and they have a Monopoly board in the middle, and that's like, it was a Monopoly. Like, no, they don't even class it as murder. That's like, it's a Monopoly incident. Move on. So
chalk it up. Yeah,
absolutely. So with that, like, what was some of the things you, like, when you started your own consultancy, you went, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to leave this behind. What was the biggest takeaway you took going forward for your company? And what was the biggest thing you left behind, would you say?
Well, I mean, there's so much I took and left behind. I mean, obviously it's different for me. I'm running a small business now. So I don't have, and you know, the only person I have to impress is myself and my clients. So I've kind of eliminated some of the complexity that was overhanging when you work in a business. Yeah. But you know what? Those fundamentals have served me well, right? Because to build a business is all about networking and promotion. So all those skills I honed at promoting my career is now I'm just turning them to promote my business. And fortunately, I love talking to people like your good self. And I love telling them, oh yeah, get out of the room here.
Okay. Yeah.
So definitely, but do you know what? When you go from working in a company, and you know, I talked about EY, but I've also worked at other consulting firms. They're great that they're big and they have processes, but it's only when you step away do you realize how much that process takes up of your time, right? How much internal stuff. You're basically losing 30% of your working week to doing internal stuff. So being handed back that time is so liberating, and you know, your decision making goes up, right? You know, I've been in organizations where I've been part of a team to redesign websites, and you're still on the same team a year later and nothing's changed. And when it came to building my own company website, in 2 days I was done, right? Because, you know, decisions on font, decision on what to write, I don't have to. You don't have to wait 2 months for someone senior to approve it and send it back. You're just like, just get on with it, right? So I've certainly left behind the admin, the bureaucracy, but I take the good stuff and I try and make the most of that to make the success of my business.
Yeah, I always think of big organizations when they've got to make decisions like that as sort of battleship mentalities, because by the time you've turned around the battleship, it's like, the moment quite often is gone. It's like going, when you're on target with that battleship, you annihilate everything. But when you're trying to turn it.
There's probably some companies that are just approving getting fax machines for the office or something, right? Done. You've got to be quick.
It's like, what do you mean we're not using the telegraph anymore?
Right? Yes. Windows 5 is going to be awesome. Windows 95. Oh yeah, no.
God. 95. What does the 95 stand for? I think it's the year, but it's 2021. So with like doing the sort of big leap of doing your own business, what was the thing was like going, what compelled you to like go, hey, nah, it's time for me to break out by yourself?
Yeah, I mean, things are only scary if you deliberate on them a long time. And I've long held the belief that you should run towards the wrecking ball sometimes. So and I've got trouble a few times. But what I mean by that, I did deliberate for a while. Actually, I was working with a career coach and talked through a lot about what I wanted to do next, and where my career was going and what I was enjoying, and that took like 18 months to come back to actually I'd love to run my own thing. I'd love to do the kind of work that I'm passionate about, build a business that I want, because businesses for me are a lot like politics, political parties. I find it hard to find one party that I agree with everything that they do, and the same with businesses. I've worked for some great businesses, but I don't necessarily agree with everything that they do. And so the chance to build a business that I think does all the great things, what an opportunity. Why not? And if it all goes wrong, then hopefully, as shown by my experiences of just doing other stuff, I'll be able to land on my feet and go with it.
Yeah. Now, I think with regards to like taking up a career coach to sort of do that sort of next step to like get into business by yourself, I think a lot of people don't actually do that. And I think they would like benefit hugely for it. The reason why I say this now, because I think with regards to the last sort of 16 months we've gone through, yay, joy. It's like, welcome back to like Freedom Day, as they say. But I think there's going to be over the next sort of 3 to 5 years, I think a greater shift of people like redefining who they are and where they sort of fit in. And I think like, doing the step where you did, getting a career coach and going, this is what you truly want. Because I don't think when people like, oh, I don't want to do what I was doing in 2019 into sort of 2020, I want to do something different, but they're not 100% sure how to get there. And I think that coach may have helped you. I could be wrong, but yeah.
No, I mean, completely. And two things I'd say is, professionally, part of my business is helping companies set their own strategies and really change their strategies. So it's asking exactly the same questions a career coach asked to me, but I ask them to companies. What do you stand for? What direction do you want to go for? This sort of thing. So it really fascinated me that I couldn't ask myself these questions and hold myself accountable. You do need someone external to really to make great strides. Otherwise, you're going to do it really slowly. You're going to avoid the questions and giving the answers. And what's really fascinating for me, you say the great, what's going to come out of the pandemic and stuff, and people reevaluate their careers and where they're going.
Yeah.
I was giving a talk a couple of weeks ago to master's students at a university, and I was meant to be talking about consulting. I was brought in to talk about how do you get into a career in consulting. I must have spent 5 minutes talking about consulting because the other 55 minutes, everyone just wanted to ask me how they set up their own business. And I was fascinated that people so young already focused on it already, going, actually, would I get satisfaction from a career in consulting? Or should I try something a bit more innovative and do something that I might, it might not be as successful. It might not necessarily, it's got greater risk, but hell, it's exciting me after the year that we've all had.
Yeah, and like this is the thing. I would say if there's going to be a sort of real time you're going to start a business where it can't, if it goes tits up, you still got time to recover. I would say just coming out of, graduate school might be an ideal time to do it.
There are arguments for and against. It was a question they asked me specifically. Should we start business now? And I was like, how long's a piece of string? It could be right. It could be it could be something you do later on in life. What do the stats tell you? The average age of a first-time successful entrepreneur is 40.
There you go.
Having a bit of experience is no bad thing, but if you can cover the lack of network and contacts with other, with drive, with other things, then don't worry about the statistics.
True. Like that. So now, with regards to all of what's gone on and everything like this, I have to ask now, success, what does that equal?
How do I know? Success equals a made-up equation that I created, which is success equals EQ times FQ times IQ. Okay, so those are three components. For those who don't know what those letters stand for, let's start with IQ. IQ is intelligence quotient, is being smart. So if you want to be successful, having great ideas, a great plan is key, right? But crucially, the reason I say it's times the other two things is you cannot operate without these other two elements, all right? If they are 0 and 0, anything times 0 equals 0. That's the maths teacher in me. So you need great ideas, you need a great plan, but you also need EQ, emotional intelligence, which is you need to be able to take others on the journey with you about that plan. You need to say, look, this is a great idea. We should do it, and people be convinced and bought in and get excited by that idea. So that's the emotional intelligence, right? And then the last thing is the focus, right? You can be excited, you can have a great plan, but if you're trying to do 100 things at the same time, you're not going to be successful on the thing that you set out to do. So without the focus, you're tying your arms behind the back. So that's why you need all three elements. There you go, my friend. I've just given you 20 years of my professional experience summarizing an equation, because I find too often too many of the businesses I work with just go all in on IQ and then forget about the others.
I think it's one of those things. It's very easy to sort of look at the IQ and go, right, we're intelligent, we've got this, and we've got some of the most brightest people around. Yeah, let's concentrate on that. So yes, when it comes to EQ and FQ, it's not so much. And it's one of those things where you kind of look at the most sort of successful companies. I think, they've got the IQ, they got the EQ, but I'd say the FQ, they've got it in spades, absolute spades. And and before you know it, they're huge. And I would say, love them or hate them, if you want to look at vast takeover of the world in no time at all, I got to look at Amazon and the way that sort of come up. What was Amazon in the 90s? That's
it sold books. It sold books. It posted you videos and DVDs and expected you to post them back. I mean, nowadays. Jeff Bezos, love him or hate him, had laser focus, stripped away stuff that he just didn't think was relevant, and kept going. Whether he had enough EQ is we're seeing now. But hey, he's one of the most successful companies in the world. And the same goes with Apple, and the same goes with Facebook. But there are other great companies that do this. I work with companies of large and small, and some of the startups that I work with, and I love working with startups. They're so full of energy and enthusiasm, and actually sometimes they have too much energy and enthusiasm, and you need to strip them back to really focus on what's important. And once they've got that, away they go.
I'm curious because like one of the things like, well, with regards to the change, like the changing realm of how this little island of ours, which was part of the EU, has now left the EU and now it's trying to forge its way in the world by itself. Would you say the sort of appetite of businesses out there, like new startup companies, are there to sort of like become sort of global leaders, or it's just about we're just bringing in the cash and we're leaving it at that? Where do you like what's some of the vibes you get for some of these people?
Hey, I don't, I've never met a startup founder that has small ambitions, let's say. Everyone wants to conquer the world, but not in an evil way. They just become evil later on. No, everyone world, you don't. I've got a friend who went to 2 Olympics, right? And he retired after his second Olympics because he came 8th. And when I said to him, "Why do you do that?" He said, "Because I tried twice, I came 8th. I was never going to be first." And that was right. And that is the same mentality of a lot of the startup businesses that I work with. It's I'm here to change the world, right? I don't think Brexit, no Brexit, will stop them thinking that. What they will experience is different sort of barriers now because of Brexit that they might not have experienced, and it might take away some of the barriers that they would have otherwise experienced. But they're still just got the same ambition. They just look at it going, right, what do we need to do differently to overcome whatever it's about the rules of the game, and however the board's set up, I'll play it.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Like, because one of the things what sort of concerns me about sort of some of the new companies coming up and everything like this, we live in a world right now where capital is cheap. And that, I don't know when it's going to change, but at some point it's going to need to change because look, we've been on, how can I say, we've been on the sort of quantity easing sort of crack money for quite some time, like from 2008, just seemed like we were coming off of it and now we're back on it again. It's one of those hard things to quit. And with many a sort of company being launched with like this sort of cheap capital, I'm just curious about when times start to get harder, if you get what I mean, how resilient they're going to be. Like with the help of people like you, hopefully quite resilient.
Hey, yeah, I mean, there's going to be tough choices and there's going to be, some companies are going to do well, some are not, unfortunately. And, I started my business 6 months before COVID. And what was fascinating, by the time COVID hit, I built a small portfolio of clients and some of the smaller ones didn't survive. And that was not necessarily because they made poor decisions, but just timing. They hadn't built up critical mass to have sufficient cash flow. They always tell you cash flow will be what gets you. Yeah. So I think you can be smart, you can be well versed, but there is an element of timing and luck that will play in it, and it will be survival of the fittest / luckiest. But there are definitely good opportunities out there, as you say, with cheap.
Yeah, like 6 months before COVID. Wow, like you might like that most like COVID, man. Like that most really was like, yes, this is my game plan. I've got it going. Let's do this. 2020. Let's make it happen. Oh.
The story I kind of tell, or the analogy I kind of tell, is when I was a kid, I wanted to learn tennis, and I said to my dad, "Can you buy me a tennis racket?" And he gave me his old wooden racket that he used to play with when he was a kid.
Oh,
and I said, "Dad, all the other kids have got graphite rackets." And he said, "Look, son, if you can learn to play with a wooden racket, just think by the time I buy you a graphite racket, how awesome you'll be. What a great tennis player." So for me, if I can set up a business during a pandemic, just think when we're out of the pandemic, how awesome a business it will be.
Well, yes, I'll put it this way, like many a great company has come out of times of recession, times of hardship. And yeah, who knows? I'm sure you'll be going forward quite happily. So as like With regards to the whole sort of 2020, what would you say has been like your sort of greatest takeaway from it as a new business owner and basically as a business advisor in many respects?
So, I mean, the pandemic and 2020 was a hell of a year, right? And obviously it presented health challenges that are unforeseen. But in terms of business challenges, I often say that all it really did was accentuate underlying things and amplify them. For me, one of the things it really amplified was just how much we relied on seeing each other in a business world to get stuff done. And it kind of masked a whole raft of problems or stuff that wasn't quite working correctly. You know, be that the lack of inclusivity for people who have families or women in the workplace, be that how extroverts dominated over introverts, be that how, one of the areas that I spend a lot of time with is remote working, is getting teams working better together. Because so many managers just relied on seeing their staff to actually manage. And then when they don't see them, they forget about them. All right, they don't check in on them. They go, oh, and then they wonder why the staff, get stressed, get things. And so it's basics and teaching people, look, you need to be doing these things to be a manager, to be a leader, to make your strategy actually work. You can't just go, oh well, out of sight, out of mind. So yeah, I think it's shone a light, and you take all those things I said about business, it's shone a light societally as well. And these aren't new things, but they're amplified, and we need to go about fixing them. And that's my key takeaway of 2020.
Yeah, like you know what, like with regards to the remote working, it's like, okay, if you're working in the office and you were remote working and everything like this, and yeah, efficiency and like productivity was like just ticking along nicely. Whereas I would say companies were maybe 5-10 years away from like maybe softly bringing in like flexi working time or basically working from home. And now it's like, yeah, you really can't say anything against it. You like, if you want people back in the office, it's a different story. It's something different. And I think that sort of, everyone's peeked behind the curtain with that. And there is, I would say, a lot of companies which can work perfectly fine without being in the office. Like, what would you say to anyone who's like, nah, now we're going back, getting back in 5 days a week, regardless?
Hey, look, that might be the right answer, but don't used to do. Too often, without going into human psychology, but we take the easy path. The brain doesn't want to think things through. It wants the path of least resistance, and it'll be like, oh well, we used to do that, so let's do that again. But yeah, you're right. We've had a massive experiment that has worked. So you blow away a lot of arguments, and it's basically been a big change experiment. And what I love about change is we all hate change. We all have to get through the change curve. It doesn't matter, we're the most flexible person in the world. We still go through it. And I was given a great, it's a slide because I'm a consultant, but basically a great slide early on in my career, which says the 27 ways people say no to something. All right. And it's things like, oh, it won't work for us. We've tried it before. Yeah, we're just not ready. Basically, all those have been blown away by this experiment. So that's what I'd say is, show me the reasons why you need to go back. What exactly do you need to achieve? And then tailor it around that. Don't just lazily say we need to go back. And I'll talk about my own business. Everything I do is about facilitation, is about energy, is about, it was in a room with people, getting them energized, using whiteboards. And I went, shit, how am I going to do this in a virtual world? Sorry, I don't know if what rating your podcast is, so I don't want to use
you are fine. Go ahead. It's like,
okay, well, shit. All right. And I was like, how the hell am I going to make this work? Not just make it work, but then convince clients that, hey, I'm so good at it, you should buy me. There's no drop off in quality. But you know what? It took a bit of a learning curve. It means more pressure on me. I have to take all the pain. But 99% of things I used to do in the old world, I can do remotely. And do you know what? Even better, I can do it to people around the world. So I'm working with people in Australia, in Brazil, in Singapore, without leaving my flat. It's amazing. And I'm bringing the energy. I ran a training course for Australia the other day where I was up at midnight running for 8 hours training. We got to the end of the course and they scored me the highest they've ever had. And they said, "You're so full of energy, we never would have guessed it was the middle of the night for you." And I said, "Exactly. There you go. There's the key." And so it can be done. You just have to think about it and apply a bit of elbow grease.
Like that. I like that a lot. That's like up at midnight. Okay. It's like, come on, I can do this. I can do this.
I definitely had a siesta at 2 p.m. I won't lie to you, but that's okay.
No, I won't hold that against you. You know what? I give you a big thumbs up for that. So yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. But you know what? That's the way the world is. And I think it's a case of I would say there has been a lot more sort of new opportunities coming up rather than the ones which have been lost along the way. And I think it's a case of how people are harnessing those opportunities. This is the key to it. And look, with yourself, being able to train people all around the world rather than sort of now, like before, just looking in your own backyard and seeing that potential grow from there. So do you think with regards to sort of potential, like I've seen you on a YouTube a little bit here and there, and doing a push-up here and there too, 25 days, yes, 25 push-ups, 25 days. All I've got to say is that is a rather fetching ironing board indeed.
Oh yeah, the ironing board press-ups, yeah. That ironing board is over 50 years old. I'm glad it survived.
Well, you know what? You entrusted your life and your face to that ironing board, so bravo. Like, do you think you'll ever get into sort of the realm of like speaking or like something else along the way?
Hey, yeah, maybe. I long ago embraced just say yes to most things. I used to have a saying, try anything once apart from incest and Morris dancing. Not sure that saying is relevant anymore. Nobody knows what Morris dancing is, largely. No.
They have Google.
Good stuff happens when you just take a risk, run towards the record book, say yes. So I talked about when I set up Shiageto 18 months ago, I was doing business and stuff. But it has opened up so many doors. I have started doing a few talks. I have started helping a friend write a book. I've been doing articles for newspapers and things I didn't imagine or didn't set out to do, but they kind of turned up and I went, yeah, why not? It might help the business. And I always thought it'd help the business, but also I've enjoyed them. And, the most random one is, like I said, I somehow seem to have signed myself up doing talks to give a talk at the University of Delhi to 2,000 students over Zoom in a couple of months. But again, it was a LinkedIn conversation that just kind of grew. And before I knew it, I was, I'd agreed to do it. So I thought, why not? What's the worst that happens? But definitely, I can see lots of possibilities. My key is just keep having fun.
I like it. 2,000 students in the University of Delhi. Well, you know what? At least you don't have to get up in front of them. It's like just like, hi.
Yeah. It'll be the same as talking to you. It's just talking to my iPad in front of me. He says naively.
Well, yes.
What about you? Where is your podcast taking you? Give me a flavor of some of the experiences that have happened because of the podcast.
Now, like this is the thing with my podcast. I started it out just like talking to myself over just over my phone, just like, yes, this is me, Riley B. This is the day in, day out podcast. Let me tell you, talk about motivation and stuff like this. after sort of 8 episodes, I was like going, yeah, you know what? No, I can't just do this talking to myself. So I interviewed friends, then like my first ever podcast I did remotely. And this is before I discovered the joys of Zoom. I was working with Skype and OBS. Let's just say, I don't know if you know these programs. Well, Skype, you must already know. Yep. OBS is more like a screen sharing sort of like program. And when you get them to work together, you've got the two pictures set up and you can talk over the internet. Let's just say there is many moving parts in this. And as much as you check it, as much as you double check it, triple check it to make sure it's working perfectly fine, when someone else comes onto it, it will work, and then it won't work. So it'll be like, okay. So my first interview over at the interwebs was with a gentleman named Liam. Yeah, he's like started up a PT, like a number of PT businesses and fitness businesses. Yeah. Let's just say the first half an hour was just me trying to get Skype and OBS to work. Like desperately beating my head against the wall. And he was like, no, I've got you. And yeah, that was like, okay. But from those sort of struggling beginnings, like, yeah, 165 with yourself episodes, just like grinding them out. But I won't lie, with regards to last year's 2020, I decided to take full advantage of the free time I was given and like basically try to get as many episodes done as possible. And, and basically it led to me coming up to this number today. But the people I've spoken to, the lessons I've taken away, I've met some of the like strongest people you'll ever meet, where they've overcome cancer, they've overcome like a number of trials and tribulations to start businesses, to go places, to like just simply like even just raising up a finger to life when it throws all of its crap at them and go, no, hell no, you're not taking me. Today, you're not going to hold me down. And it's like been a wonderful sort of education along the way. And like this is the thing, I tried to speak to as many people as possible. I could have niched down with it and go, yes, I'm only going to speak to people in fitness, and because I like fitness, I like doing that, or movies. And it was just like, but no, it's a case of, for me, it's important to like keep on pushing yourself, keep on growing. And by meeting and talking to a myriad of people, I should say, it helps me do that. And look, with regards to some of your like the insights I get, like from yourself, for example, look, you were in the corporate, like you went from being a teacher to like bouncing around a couple of places, like a few places along the way before you could find your feet. And that wasn't down to just simply like, oh yeah, I need to find myself, I need to discover myself. It was a case of you went to places and went, no, you don't have any experience, get out of here. And let's be honest, as I said earlier, you're a teacher, you got to organize time, you got to train people, you've got to like build a structured learning experience. And all of these skills count for a lot. So I get to learn this about yourself, how you started your business, how you got there. And so it's like, yeah, I get an opportunity to grow, you get an opportunity to share your story, and anyone out there has this fantastic opportunity to learn a little bit about yourself. And maybe if they want to start their own business, go forward with that. And I think it's important that these, like, you hear these stories, have these conversations, and like, yeah, you never know how this conversation could have went down. We could have went down sort of like a line or something more on the like politics side or stuff like this, and a bit like an interesting debate could have like kicked off from there. But here we are. It's still a thing which is like going along and growing.
Completely. Well, and that's going to be the second hour, listeners. Tune in. No. I think I mean, there's so much to learn from others, and you never know what little, it can be a little snippet, one sentence can inspire somebody else. And that's what I love, right? People have inspired me and they will never know it. And I've been fortunate enough, particularly actually by running my own business, but also having through the tools nowadays, to actually have people follow up years later to tell me how I influenced them. And it's incredibly rewarding, right? So some of the kids I taught 20 years ago, now because of Facebook and LinkedIn, actually look me up and tell me, the impact I had. Whereas I'm sitting there going, yeah, but you were a little shit. So no, tongue in cheek. So it's amazing to actually get that 20 years later feedback. My first client for my business was a guy I trained 12 years ago. He came on a training course. And for him, it was the best training course he'd been on, and it changed his career. And so before that I set up a company, he immediately picked up the phone and rang me and said, look, what you did 12 years ago really changed everything for me. Are you still doing that training? He's got promoted now. He said, I want you to come in and train my juniors, what you told me 12 years ago. Which was lovely. And I couldn't quite remember what I told him, but I was like, oh, right, yeah, that sounds like me. So it's amazing. Good stuff happens and you just don't know. So give your time, give your words, give your experiences freely is what I say.
Yeah. And like this is the thing, never forget that, yes, people you meet along the way, you might think you meet them briefly, but you never know when they might resurface in your life. So yeah, treat everyone with a little bit of class and dignity, or it might come back and bite you.
Great.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, like, okay, where do you think you might be in, say, 3 or 5 years' time, when all of this dust settles?
When all the dust settles, dust never settles. This dust just gets replaced with other dust. So learn to breathe the dust. Where will I be? In prison, in space? No, I'm joking. Neither of those things. I'll leave it to Bezos and Branson to race. I hope in 3, 4, 5 years, I will still be learning. Still be growing a business. It will have a bigger team doing the kind of work to help businesses sharpen their effectiveness. I hope I'll still be doing podcasts and just still have that mentality of why not? Yeah, let's give it a go. Let's try it. Because have a plan, kind of go in the direction. If things change, go with it. Start off as a school teacher. Maybe I'll end up as a school teacher. I love whatever ending my story, or it's not ending, the next chapter will be. But certainly that is my sort of aim and goal and vision. And I look forward to the experiences along the way.
Yeah, like with regards to a podcast, will you be starting one yourself, or will you just be guessing?
Well, I have a lot of respect for you and immense. I did try and start one in 2020. I called it Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, which is very similar to you. I think if you can talk to fascinating people and stand on their shoulders and get a leg up, it's fantastic. And I did a couple episodes, and then I just realized how painful it was to do all the editing and all that malarkey. So I quietly abandoned it after a few episodes. So maybe in the future, it's far nicer to be a guest on a podcast than to have to do all the legwork of being the host.
I understand. But like, hey, look, like this is the thing. Get someone, like hire someone to do the editing for you. So like, you know what I mean? You don't have to go through that pain of things. Like,
That's true. Do you want a job? No.
How much does it pay? It's like,
talk off camera.
No.
That's a good point. But also, hey, I run a business. I'm one person, fundamentally running my business. It's about when we go back to that FQ, where do I put my shoulder to get the most return? And I enjoyed the podcasts, but as a business development tool, I tried loads of things, and actually I realized that I was going to invest my time in other things that would give quicker returns. And And don't get me wrong, I love doing podcasts. I've done blogs and vlogs and article writing and a whole range of things. And I enjoy them all, and I will come back to them all. But it's about focus and follow the data. That's how brutal I am.
Follow the data. Classic consultant. There you go. Seeing there was a spreadsheet. Yes. Oh, brilliant. Now, I have to ask this question, like a serious question, to say the least. Might give a real sort of deep dive into your psyche. We shall see. Now, okay. Pick a film or a TV show, and now with that film or TV show, like the cast of the Muppets, from Sesame Street to the Muppet Show. Now, replace the whole cast of that movie or TV show with the cast of the Muppets, except one human actor. Which film or TV show would that be?
Well, the film I was thinking was Old Boy, which is one of my favorite films.
I haven't watched it, but like my lady loves that film. Okay, yeah, let's go with that. Yeah.
But I didn't know where you were going. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, it's a hell of a film. It's quite violent, but I could see all the Muppets doing the different scenes.
Okay. Right. So, who would you have the lead as a human, or would you have them as a Muppet? Because I vaguely remember what the lead looks like. Yes.
I would have the lead as a Muppet. It would make it a lot more entertaining. I'd probably leave the human as like the villain guy at the end, because it's just this whole, it's a revenge movie. I won't spoil it for anyone who's not seen it, but just to have a whole bunch of Muppets fighting it out amongst themselves, trying to solve a mystery, then to the final scene to be confronted with a giant human. It would be massively entertaining.
I like it. It's like, yes, if you like Old Boy, you must like The Raid or The Raid 2.
I do like The Raid and The Raid 2, yeah. The reason I liked Old Boy was not for the violence, was for the twist and trying to work it out. I love those kind of like, did not see that, why didn't I see that sooner? But it's just it's the art of great storytelling, which we've touched on before. So much of about storytelling. Something I go into businesses and teach in and use. I love Old Boy because it's a story that you can't see the ending, and that for me keeps me even more hooked. Because sometimes when you know how it's going to play out, you tune out. And I often tell people that, that's the same in business, right? You're in a meeting. If people kind of know how the meeting's going to go, they'll be on their phones. But if you can keep attention, if you can actually tell a story in a structured way, they won't realize that they're absorbed. And actually, it'll be much richer. They'll be then more energized, engaged, and actually have listened. But not a lot of people look at things that way.
Interesting. I like it. Yes, I've got to simply say, I like with regards to the whole storytelling side. The power of stories. I do love that. And yes, when it comes to sort of twists you don't see coming, the old one for me was the Usual Suspects, but that's another story. And I will not say anything about a film which is now 30 plus years old about what the twist might be. Potential spoilers, but not today.
We're just waiting for more films like that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Let's see. Now, with regards to how people can find you out on the big wide webs, how can they do that?
They can type in my name into some small search engine called Google. But the best way is to check out my company website, which is www.shiageto.com. You're probably wondering how Shiageto, that's backwards. So it's Shiageto. Japanese word. I have no connections to Japan, but it sounds cool. No, it's the Japanese word for a sharpening stone, because my business sharpens other businesses. So it's I feel it's a nice metaphor. So Shiageto, look me up on LinkedIn, Faris Aranki, or just shout. I've got really good hearing.
Yes, and I put it this way, people, whoever was watching the video, he has more merch. Trust me, he does. It's not just the mug. He has a cushion somewhere there as well. And
I have a famous cushion. Thanks, Mum. I tell clients if they buy enough work, then I'll get my mum to make them a cushion. It doesn't matter that she's an elderly lady with arthritis. Or work. I love you.
Oh, you said it. You said it. Time immemorial. Okay. Oh, damn. What I'll do, I'll put all the information in the show notes. We'll also send the authorities around to check on his mother to make sure she's okay. Not forced to make cushions by candlelight or something like that. But yes. Oh, Faris, I'd like to say thank you for coming on today, man. You have been a pleasure, a joy.
The pleasure's been all mine, and I've really enjoyed it, and I look forward to listening to another 165 episodes.
Well, you know what? I'm sure I'll get you in the mix for a couple more, I'm sure. And I'd like to say this to you, my friends, my life warriors who are still here right now, listening, watching at this present time. I'd like to say thank you. Please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world, and then some. See you later. Peace. And we are